Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the official Quarantine Chronicles interview. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Manny Alban, and I am the roommate of the man of the hour, Mr. Shaun Blanch. And without further ado, let's get right into it. First of all, thank you, Shaun, for being here today.
Well, thank you for doing this, Manny.
Of course, man. So we're going to start off with some very general questions just about Quarantine Chronicles in itself and just a little bit about you, too. So let's get started with just a very generic question. How did you get into music in the first place?
First got into music just as a kid, playing music in school, violin, tuba, drums.
Tuba?
Yeah, tuba for a little bit, short stint. And then I picked up the guitar when I was 12 from like a friend, that sort of thing. And it just kept going.
Nice, man.
You know,
and when did that start?
Well, all of it first started when I was about like 11. I first started playing like violin in, I think, 5th grade. Was probably the first introduction, and then it was band and, like I said, guitar and drums and, different instruments throughout the years. But
Gotcha. And what would you say is your favorite instrument to play by far? Because I know you play a lot of different instruments, even now.
Well, guitar, probably. And then, drums are very close second. It's hard to separate.
Gotcha.
They're both.
Yeah, you go through your waves for sure.
Yeah.
Very cool. How did you get... Oh, excuse me. What inspired you to create Quarantine Chronicles in the first place? This album specifically.
I think in the beginning of this, we were all trying to figure out what we're going to do with our time now that we're not going out and doing things with friends or going to work or whatever. And, it started kind of simply. I have been meaning to record something for a long time. I was originally working on something else that never came to fruition, and then the idea came up for the Quarantine Chronicles, and I thought I could put something out there if I could figure out a way to make it work, and then I could sort of bring in revenue to help out different sort of charities and that sort of thing. So that was the original idea, and then it just sort of expanded from there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, at the time of this recording, it is currently July 13th. So we started quarantine at around, I would say, like beginning of March or so.
Yeah, it was like March 12th.
Now, was the entire album done from start to finish at that time? So probably like 3 or 4 months ago from today?
Yeah, really it started beginning of April, and then, just wrapped up like 10 days ago, I think, 7 days ago, something like that. So, the songs were all mostly written, except for the intro. All those songs are old songs I had wrote years ago, so it was more a matter of how to put them together, how to actually add different parts to them, bringing them to life, that sort of thing. Like the bones were all there, and then I came up with this series of 6 songs that I think to me kind of worked together, in that sequence, and so that became the Quarantine Chronicles.
Very cool. And on the subject of quarantine, besides just creating this album, how has quarantine been for you personally? Like, what have you been doing? And go ahead, give it all.
Well,
and by the way, before you answer this question too, cheers to surviving quarantine.
Yeah, so far.
This entire
There we go.
time. Yeah, so far.
As you know, I've been really focused on this a lot. Aside from that, hanging out with you a lot. That's been fun. Watching some shows and different
It's been
things.
fun as hell. Not gonna lie.
Luckily, over the last couple months, we've been lucky to have some outdoor festivities and had a small barbecue with just a few people. But mostly working, and then when you're not working, either working on this or I don't know, watching documentary or something like that.
I can definitely attest. You've been doing this almost 24/7, but it's been awesome.
It's been a lot of time.
It's been a ride. Yeah. And I guess the only question before we get into track for track questions is like, what do you think like your creative process is like? Like what inspired you to go and like carry through with this album? And specifically, like, how did you go about finding the drive to create all of these songs?
Yeah. So it's kind of 3 questions in there.
Yeah.
All right. Creative process, in terms of writing, I think when I originally wrote these songs, it's really acoustic guitar and then coming up with lyrics to fit the melody and whatever the general idea is. I kind of think of it as like writing a paper where you come up with your sort of rough outline, and then you expand upon your ideas, and then you come up with your rough draft, and then
That
your
foundation
sort of,
that you were saying.
yeah, it's sort of your finalization. And I guess like creating the other parts is kind of like that as well. It's, you hear a lot of stuff in your head, and then you try to you try to experiment with different things and see when you actually hear it back, what sounds good, what works, what doesn't work in your mind, right? Like whatever the sound is that you're going for and that you're trying to get across to people. So, I mean, the process itself, I don't know if I have like a specific set process yet. That's one of the things I've been working on during this whole thing. And then, sorry, what were the other two questions? To go along with
You
that?
pretty much answered it. It was more so just like your creative process and how like you found the energy or the mindset to actually like go in, like after work, go in and just transfer from a work mindset to a, okay, I need to get creative.
Yeah,
just
I mean,
flowing.
as far as that part goes, again, as you well know, I get obsessive over things, and I go down my rabbit holes, so to speak. And I mean, I didn't know that I was going to be able to finish it. It was getting through one bit, solving a problem. All right, cool, we've got that. That's working. Let's try to add on top of that. And then I'd hit like stumbling blocks in areas where I was pretty sure it wasn't going to work, right? I had no idea. So this whole thing has been an incredible learning process for me, which I've really enjoyed. But as far as finishing it and seeing it through, it was little sort of mini goals along the way. All right, if I get this one piece in this song done, then I can move on to this next thing, right? And then you keep doing that over and over and over again, and then eventually you're like, oh wow, I've put a lot of stuff together. This might work.
Yeah.
I might be able to finish this, So that's
And I just want to say too, as your roommate or just as somebody who has literally lived with you throughout this entire making, like I've heard your sound develop too. So like kudos to you for actually doing that. Yeah, 100%.
Thanks, man.
All right, so now we're going to go into track for track questions. So these are very specific questions about songs in particular. For those of you that are at this part of the interview, I encourage you not to listen to this part until you've listened to the entire album. Hopefully you have already. But we'll start off with the intro. So you have a clip from it sounds like Jon Stewart interview.
Yeah.
What is it and why do you have it in there?
Okay. So I was kind of struggling with what the intro sort of mini bit was going to be. I always knew there was going to be a like skit type thing going on in the beginning, and then like 1 minute clip of the song. But I went through a lot of different iterations of ideas to put something there. And then one day when I wasn't recording, but kind of like looking for inspiration, looking at different documentaries, interviews, that sort of thing, I watched this hour-long interview with Jon Stewart. It was about The Daily Show and their process when he was involved in The Daily Show. And he said something that just really stood out to me. And it was about basically creating something and how it's very personal to that individual. And he was speaking for himself and other artists alike. And it just really resonated with me as far as this whole experience, right? This is something where I really hope people enjoy it. It's not that I want people to not like it, but if they don't, it was really something for me, right? I did it as far as going through the process, wanting to finish it. Those motivations were intrinsic. And then, as I mentioned before, the original idea was more of extrinsic, like how can I help in a way, right? Like what is something besides donating money or that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's why I chose it. It really sort of resonated with me.
That was a solid answer. Nice.
Thank you.
All right, so on the song, this is a public question. Okay. On the song Lack of Axe, the chorus says, I need daughter.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, okay. A lot of these songs aren't really have anything to do with me per se. One of the things I really like to do is tell stories, right? Marie is a story. Lack of Axe is a bit of a story. But yeah, so basically Lack of Axe was written after watching that show on Intervention.
Throwback show.
Yeah, and there was this lady and her daughter, unfortunately, was going through terrible drug addiction, and she was the mother was torn up about not having her daughter, because once upon a time they had a really great relationship. And so I just watched the show, and then after that I actually wrote that song probably like right after I finished the show. And I don't know, I was thinking of like a kind of Pearl Jam sort of thing at the time. And they have a song called Daughter. And
Right.
I don't know, that was playing a lot in my head. So that's what I Need Daughter became. I know it doesn't, anyone who's heard it so far is like, what the hell does that mean? I don't have a daughter.
I think
for the
everyone
record.
you've shown that album to has asked that question specifically. So I wanted to
Yeah, I
make
don't
sure
have a
that
daughter. It's not,
was
there's
addressed.
not like some subliminal message in
save
there
you some
about,
incoming text messages so
yeah,
that everybody can see it on this
no,
interview.
there's nothing there. All right, yeah.
Very cool. All right, the final song on the album is called Marie.
Yeah.
And you kind of answered the question already, but who is Marie?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I've gotten a lot of mixed reactions on that too. It's people think it's a love song. For some, it's not. But Marie doesn't exist. I mean, she does and she doesn't, right? I think with a lot of the things that at least I do in terms of writing, sometimes you're thinking of specific people, but you know, we all have people in our lives that influence us one way or the other. But I don't want to specifically name them per se, right? And especially when it's not necessarily one person. I think it was just influenced by a combination of people that I've known in my life growing up that have gone through some rough times. And really that's what the song is about, right? It's not, it's also not a love song. It is,
Marie's been through it.
It's about someone that's going through a very rough period in their life. And people around them are sort of reacting to that and trying to respond and help them or not help them. And, not really sure what to do and that sort of thing. So
Nice.
Yeah.
And then also on Marie, who are the Belmont brothers?
Okay. Well, first of all, just so everyone knows, that's you in the beginning.
Oh, thank you.
Which is a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed that.
That was a blast.
It was a lot of fun to record
Like
that.
3 seconds of fame.
Yeah. But no. The Belmont brothers also, I mean, like no one in the album exists. Like it's just like a whole thing of fake made up shit,
That's what
basically.
quarantine does.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it just makes you kind of crazy. But kind of like the intro, I think Marie has like a kind of 1950s swing sort of feel to it. So I literally just took different 50s groups like the Isley Brothers and Dion and the Belmonts and mixed them together and then made you scream it in the intro.
Love it.
So
Big fan.
That's who they are. But, you know, I was thinking about it. If one day there's a way for me to do like an actual live band sort of rendition of some of these songs, I get musicians that I know together, whatever, they will be called the Belmont Brothers. Like, you know, that's going to happen.
Yep.
Like, it's going to be.
I will happily be a
It's going to
Belmont
be
brother.
Shaun Blanch and the Belmont Brothers.
Love
Like, and we'll probably need a DJ too. So.
Oh yeah, I got you there for the remix. All right. This isn't really a track for track question, but besides instruments, are there any other cool sound effects that really stand out for you within any of the songs? Like anything that you wish people will hear like right off the bat? Like for me, I think it was A Day in the Life. You had I remember there was a huge storm one day, and you went out and recorded like the rain.
Yeah.
Like that's actual rainfall from the quarantine from a really bad storm.
Astoria rain.
Astoria rain. Yeah, exactly. Anything like that, or even any other sound effects that like really stand out for you personally?
I was experimenting with some different sort of like things I stripped off YouTube and free clips, stuff like that. I mean, there's the city bit in Soul. There's the crowd in Marie. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, it's really the rain. You already pretty much got it.
Honestly, I was like hoping that you'd have others, but
No, yeah. I mean, it's mostly the rain. I mean, that's the only like super authentic thing, right? I think the other stuff is more experimental. The crowd. Actually, Marie was originally recorded with a gentleman named Amir Eliasov. Shout out to Amir. And he was the one who had the idea to make it like a live audience sort of thing. And so he found the crowd noise originally that was put into that track, which I mean, I love that. I think it sounds way better than if it were absent, right?
kudos to Amir, by the way, because that's what got me amped up for my part.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that was awesome. And, you know, the noise in Soul was just like, again, as you know, an idea I had in the very beginning that it turned out to be kind of cool. It sounds like a group of people like jamming on the sidewalk or something. But the rain, it has the most sentimental value because we were, it was a rainstorm and it was your idea. I just want to shout out to you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Hey, you should go record that rain outside and add it in with the fake rain that you have. So that's how that came about. Yeah.
Added to the fake rain.
Yeah.
Funny. Let's see. What is your favorite song on this album? If you have one.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I mean, I guess the cliche answer would be Marie, right? I mean, I really do like Marie. There's no two ways about it.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be a lot of people. I think
not because I'm on it. Like that's always my favorite.
Yeah. Bring that up just a little bit, by the way. The microphone.
Yes,
I think probably A Day in the Life, just because it was really tough to make. It has these sort of two elements combined together, and I was trying to do almost like a sort of mixed track, like you might hear in hip hop, where the track like abruptly changes all of a sudden. Not exactly that, but like sort of my version of that, if you will. It took a long time to get the right instruments together and the sound that I wanted for it. I know it's kind of like a slow track early in the album, but I really liked like how it turned out and all the everything complemented together,
For sure.
So
that's actually funny because my next question was going to be if your favorite song on the album is different from the most favorite or the song that you had the most fun making, essentially. So would you say that they're pretty much one and the same?
I don't know if you call it fun, but it's like, yeah, I think so. It was really challenging, and it's like, for me, when you solve a problem, you get through it. If your end product is like what you're going for, then that's the ultimate goal, right? So, it is fun at the end of the day once it's all done. As you know, there's a lot of bits in there where it's not fun, but if it works out, it's fun. Yeah.
I have a story, but we'll get into that in a minute. Yeah. Okay. It's actually, I was going to ask this a little later, but we can ask this now. What would you say was your biggest challenge while creating this album?
I think to even start it was the biggest challenge, right? I've been trying to record things for probably the last few years, and I think much like a lot of people with all this stuff that you have going on, work, life, etc.
Things keeping your mental sanity.
Yeah, things get in the way, and so I first started recording soul, and I think when I was doing some of the vocals and hit this harmony and heard it back, I was like, oh shit, this doesn't sound bad. This could work, and that was like the first bit of inspiration to get me to the next point, right? Because like to me, creating something like this, and I can only speak for myself, but it's, again, you're doing like one bit to the next bit to the next bit, and if you can keep getting inspired by different things that you're accomplishing, then it'll project you forward, right? Like, and so that was the first one of those that I was like, oh well, okay, this might work. Nice. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's go.
Nice, cool. All right, yeah. Let's get into the artwork of the album. First off, I want to ask who created it. It looks awesome from the jump.
Okay.
So, go ahead. Like, who created it? Give them a shout out, and like, how did it come to fruition?
Okay. So Darren Hargis, shout out to Dive Design. It's my cousin's husband, aka cousin-in-law, and I originally came up with a general idea of me being out in the street with all these different sorts of things around me that are related to quarantine, and a lot, some different stories in there, right? With the pub that's in there is a pub that we actually went to right before all this shut down for my birthday, and then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, it had that sign up, right? And that was like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, front page of the news. Yeah. And so I had this different combination of ideas of things that we could put kind of in the background, and then I reached out to my cousin. Hey, do you think your husband would be interested in doing this? She put me in touch with him, and then We talked about it. He liked the idea. He added different elements to it. He came up with like the sort of broken glass type of idea with different cuts in between the stuff. And so it's more like a comic book type of feel. And as far as the different things in the background, you know, it was a combination of me and you. You came up with some of it as well.
I did?
Yes, you did. Yeah. Yeah. Like the bat signal.
Oh,
that was
yeah,
your
right,
idea.
right.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my next questions, but keep going.
Yeah. Well, that was your idea, which is a great idea. I love that idea. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, all right. So speaking of the spotlight, who's the guy in the spotlight? You gotta let
It's gonna sound really weird now, especially.
Oh, it's so weird.
So there is a gentleman named Joe Piscopo who was a comedian that was on SNL for a while, and when my brother and I were kids, you know, we're always creative, right? And when we were kids, we came up with this news show, and we had different characters, and so my character's name was Joe Piscopo, and I was, I don't know, 10, 11 at the time, so I had no idea this guy even existed, right? I think my brother said the name first, and then I just ran with it. And then during all this, because you're going crazy, stuck inside, you start to reminisce on different things, and so I thought of that, and originally for the intro, there was an idea to, actually there was an idea, I had an idea to do something as Joe Piscopo, like impersonating him, doing a news clip, which again it only makes sense to me and my brother.
Doesn't
right?
matter,
Like,
this is your album.
Yeah. So then we thought about, well, let's put like Joe Piscopo's face on some different things. He's on my shirt, and then you actually came up with the idea to put him as the bat signal, which I thought was hilarious. And so we rolled with it, and then I ended up not even putting him in the intro. So it's just like this random guy on the cover now.
That's awesome.
But, you know, again, it relates to the quarantine, right? All things that have to do with quarantine.
That's so funny. Why is there a thief on your cover as well?
So when all this first started, everything shut down. We don't have a washer and dryer in our apartment. Mm-hmm. So we had been relying on laundromats, and they were closed. So I was washing my clothes in the bathtub, mm-hmm. and I was hanging them outside to dry.
That's what the clothesline of...
Like, so that's the clothes on the other side. And actually, a few people said to me, like, what are you doing? Like, people are going to steal some of your shit. I was like, no one's going to steal wet clothes just hanging up outside to dry. And also, I mean, I'm right there. Like, my window is next to where and I've got my window open. I think it was kind of like early spring at the time, so it's
our first line of defense.
Yeah. I'm like, I was gonna just walk by. So sure enough, someone stole my hoodie, my Murder by Death hoodie, which I was very upset about. Like, that was the one thing. Like, they could have taken anything else, I wouldn't have given a shit. Right. That was the one thing. I'm like, why'd you have to steal my Murder by Death hoodie?
Sure. Desperate times.
Yeah, you know, I got it at a concert. It's not even like something like I ordered online. But I went and ordered another one right afterwards, and that was that. But yeah, so that's what it is. And again, shout out to Darren, because he found a way to incorporate like a thief actually on my block. Like, the background has like houses that are nearby kind of thing. And originally the guy was running with a laptop, but he put the hoodie insignia on there. So it looks like he's like taking the hoodie. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, not cool that he stole it, but that's cool that you included that.
Sucks that he stole it. Yeah.
So this last question about the artwork is very subtle. Some people might not have noticed it, but on the bottom right, just below the Quarantine Chronicles title, you have EG on the bottom right. What is that?
That's Earth Gang.
Like the group?
Yeah, like the group. Okay. Yeah.
Why?
Well, they're awesome. But I was listening to a lot of Earth Gang over the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months now. And one of their albums had like a cartoon type cover. I think it was EP Rags, if I remember correctly. And I just thought it was cool as shit. I mean, I read comics growing up, and it had that sort of feel to it, and it just resonated with me a lot. I thought it was cool, and so that was the kind of feel that I wanted for this album cover. And so and beyond that, I mean, they were just like their music, their story, like everything about them is super inspiring. So it was also sort of fuel for me, right, throughout the creative process to keep going, right? Mm-hmm. Like I don't, again, I can only speak for myself, but I look at other artists, and other artists inspire me a lot with their work and their process and their story and their challenges and all the things that they've gone through to get to where they are. So those are things that kind of fuel me to try to do stuff for myself. Yeah.
Cool. So we got 2 more questions about the album in and of itself, like not just the artwork anymore.
Okay.
So we've got any fun memories, specific memories that you want to share in regards to the creation of this album?
I mean, well, we already said it, but you shouting out the intro for Marie was a lot of fun. Is this are you alluding to?
No, I'm not alluding to anything. I don't even know what you're referring to right now.
It's like me storming out of my room.
That was funny
numerous
too.
times.
That is what I wanted to mention too, as far as the challenges go. I remember saying I don't think you even asked me. I was like, "Oh, dude, that sounded good," and you're like, "No, it doesn't."
Yeah,
you slammed the door. I just waved in front of the camera.
That's okay.
But anything, like, just, I don't know, even if it was by yourself, with me, with anybody else, sharing it with anybody, like.
I don't know about like funny stuff, but it's really that stuff is the funniest. Is like those awkward interactions where so specifically what happened was I was recording a bass line for Daymaker, and for some reason when I was recording it, hearing it back, like it didn't mesh with what was there. It did not sound good. I couldn't tell, was it out of tune? I didn't know. That was the most sort of frustrating part, is I didn't know what was happening. And that happens a lot.
Of course.
Where there's just things going on and you're just like, what is happening here? And I think that's the most frustrating thing, is because you don't know how to fix it. Mm-hmm. And so in that moment, I had recorded the stuff. I walk out, and then you're like, "Oh, it sounds good," because probably through the amp, from what you could hear,
and it's probably a bass line too. So
yeah,
it's like,
it probably did sound good. It probably sounded great. And I walk out.
I knew not to talk to you that day. I was like, "All right, let me do this."
And I walk out. You go, "It sounds good," and I just screamed, "No, it doesn't!" And then
okay.
I wasn't in a good place in that moment, because like I thought it was all for naught, right? Like those are those moments.
That was very funny.
You're like,
no, but it's like one of those things where it's like, for me, like if you're playing an iPhone game or something like that, you have to come back and revisit it the next day, or like you're having a really hard time with it, you can't beat a level, and then the next day you're like, "Oh, that was the simplest thing in the world." So I'm sure the creative process is pretty similar. Final question about the album in and of itself, or more so just you, is what's next? Do you have any albums, on your mind? Any new albums coming up, live performances after the world gets back to normal, collaborations?
Yeah.
What's next?
I don't know what's next. We're in the...
What would you like to be next?
Well, right now, I'm doing a lot of different stuff for this, marketing, promo. I think that'll be going on for a while, right? I get sort of obsessed about different things. And so right now it's trying to get as many people to check out the Quarantine Chronicles as I can find. And again, hopefully they like it, but that's going to be my focus for a bit. And then I have some ideas, right? I don't think I'm going to do a full album next, but I have an idea for some singles. Maybe like a single pack, right, or something like a 3-track thing or something like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe even include Johnny in there or something.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
It's my favorite song.
Yeah. I kind of want to do something that's a little bit more current as far as stuff I've written in the last couple of years, because again, everything from this was written, aside from the intro, all that stuff was written like no later than 2013. So I've got a lot of stuff I've written since then. I mean, I have a mixture of all sorts of ideas for EPs, and I've got a bunch of tracks that could go on like a B-sides kind of thing. So I've got a lot of ideas that I want to do throughout a period of time. As far as what I'm specifically going to do now, it might be my stuff, or I think it's a good opportunity now to kind of focus on doing stuff with other people, like you mentioned, like collaborating with other folks, whether it's like more hip-hop related, other genre type stuff. I I like to be like a jack of all trades, right?
For sure.
I don't like to just specifically focus on one thing. So I've gotten a lot out of this, and to be able to put out my own album is amazing, and something I honestly never thought was going to happen. But I think I'm ready to focus on some other stuff, other people's stuff right now.
All right. Well, we are approaching the end of our drinks, so we are now going to enter the rapid fire round or the lightning round. So let's finish these up.
Let's do it.
All right. So these are just going to be a few general questions, both music related and not at all. And just first answer that hits your mind, shoot them out, and here we go.
All right.
So first off, describe your music in 3 words.
Depressing, fun, interesting.
Nice. Who would you like to collaborate with most? And you can name more than one person or artist if you choose.
Oh my God. Who would I like to collaborate with most? J. Cole. But that's like never gonna happen.
Nonsense. Let's settle that. J. Cole, you hear this?
Yeah. It's never gonna. Yeah. Like a realistic collaboration.
It doesn't matter. Who you want to collaborate with?
Bob Brand.
Okay.
Let's do a Bob Brand collaboration. Yeah.
Anyone else?
We'll stick with Bob Brand for now.
All right, sounds good. If you could open up for any artist, who would you open for?
Murder by Death.
Nice. Yeah. Best piece of advice you've received while recording this album?
I mean, everything from Amir, everything that he's told me has come to fruition.
Anything that sticks out?
Re-EQ all your shit.
If you had a spirit animal, what would it be?
Dolphin.
Dolphin?
Yeah.
Miami. Let's see. Best purchase that you've made all quarantine?
Probably the mini keyboard in there. It's a little badass thing, and
Nice.
it's half the size. And I went through a terrible experience with eBay and a seller for the long keyboard that I had to send back, and it was awful. So yeah, we're gonna go with the short keyboard.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. What's the most useless talent you have?
All my talents are pretty useful, I think. I'm
not gonna lie, this is one I found online.
The most useless talent. I have no idea. I can make bubbles with the bottom of my tongue. I don't know.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would know that, but all right, now I do. All right. That pretty much wraps everything.
No, there's got to be a question.
All right,
Get in on that one.
one more that I was going to ask. This isn't really rapid fire. I don't know what's popped up here, but anything you learned about yourself that you want to share?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I keep harping on it, but I don't think that this was never a foregone conclusion, right?
For sure.
Like putting all this together and being able to work all this stuff out. And I mean, if I didn't think it sounded halfway decent, I wasn't gonna put it out, right? So just being able to do that, yeah.
Nice. And then one message you can give out to all your fans listening right now.
Thank you. I mean, thanks for listening, and I mean, for anyone that's a fan, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's all I got.
Actually, that's pretty funny because on the wrap up, I was gonna say, is there anybody that you want to thank, whether that be like just generically, like you did just in your fans, or anyone specifically?
Definitely. You, thank you for doing this. Obviously, even putting up with all this. I mean, I feel you're the one I feel the most bad for during this whole process.
It was fun, man.
My brother, Amir, obviously, for everything he's done. He's been a huge help behind the scenes for everything related to mixing and mastering and production. So definitely couldn't have done it without any of you guys. And then again, Darren for the artwork. It looks awesome. I appreciate the Quarantine Chronicles title, the album cover. So all you guys, anyone who's helped out in any way, I appreciate. There were a lot of people I would send stuff to, and they would give me feedback on what they thought. So Ian, Cleo, Ashley, Jackie. I mean, any of you guys that helped out, I really appreciate. So
Nice. That was all I had. So, hey, thank you again. It was an absolute
Thank you.
pleasure, my guy.
appreciate it. Man.
Congratulations again.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you guys for watching.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Shaun Blanch and the Belmont Brothers!
Her side is popping out alright. She fights ghosts and demons, false souls, loudly screaming, and they surround her. They drown her. She's got no home, so she lays by the bank, under the bridge where Cobain stayed. She prays there, God save